Morning, everybody. There's nothing quite like the look of the sun off of a receding hairline head. So I thought I'd bless you with this beauty this morning, which is sort of well, with the glasses on, it's kind of a cross between a hot librarian and one of the founding fathers, like Ben Franklin or something. Not that I deliberately styled my hair that way, but when it's going back, I may as well keep going down. Um, so yeah, the last episode was on being institutionalized, which for me was, um, unlike the offender in my story, it was getting used. I would define it as getting used to another place, which isn't my home, being where I live, and that's what the hospital had become. But I was home, and the first night at home, I slept until 9 in the morning the following day. And I was used to getting up during the night in the hospital, being repositioned by the nurses, calm down. Not like in one of the penthouse stories, but just so I wasn't on my back all the time getting bed sores and bullshit like that. Um, but I slept all night like a goddamn rock, and it was just wonderful. In fact, I think at about shortly after 9, my wife came into the room just to make sure that I wasn't dead or that I was okay, and I just slept so soundly. And so I was like starting over from day one, the routine of everyday living and refamiliarizing myself with my house, even though a lot had changed while I was away, um, from flooring, to furniture, and shit like that. And we had a good friend of ours living with us, and I think at that point, just my daughter, so it was in January of 24. My daughter was living at home. I don't recall if her boyfriend, who I jokingly refer to as my prospective son-in-law, because I really hope he is. Oops, sorry, that was too close. I scared you. But he's family to us, no matter where they go in the future or when. Those were the people living at home, and I guess I just slept so well because it was so quiet, and I just consciously knew that I was back. And so it was different. I went from getting up around 7 in the morning, getting a sponge bath, which towards the end of my hospital stay I was able to do a fair bit of it myself, and thank Christ for that, because I didn't want to put the unit aides through any more trauma of seeing my junk or my ass crack anymore. I don't even like to look at it. So, but the sort of the new routine, if I got up in the middle of the night, which when you're slightly over 50, you have to pee, but I wasn't pissing into a fucking jug. I could walk and get to my own toilet, which when you miss doing for a long time, I wouldn't call it a privilege, but it just helped restore a sense of normalcy. Going in the toilet like you're supposed to. Wasn't in diapers just yet, but and then back to bed, and in the morning getting up with my wife helping me and getting into the bathtub, and I really wasn't as I wasn't anywhere near as mobile back then as I am now. So I required a lot of standby assist and physical assistance, not just someone being there, but physical assistance, getting into the tub. But I could fucking shower and sit on a bath bench. I still had my colostomy bag, which I fucking hated, especially bathing around it, because it's just fucking weird. It's not supposed to be there. It doesn't look right. But I could wash myself with shampoo, and I could wash my body with a face cloth or a scrubber or whatever, and my wife would be in the bathroom. It wasn't like fun time, playtime in the shower like it used to be, but dignity, mostly restored. because I'm washing my own goddamn body, which um, was a pleasure compared to the previous hygiene situation. And so it was so good for me up here. And then, you know, I hadn't had that year and a bit of physio back then that I have now. So a lot of the grooming I had to have my wife do it. And Christ, I wouldn't want to put anybody else through that personal trauma, but um, it just felt so goddamn good. And again, it restored the sense of normalcy. Um, Though I wasn't anywhere near to being completely dependent or independent, sorry, and I'm still not now, but it was such a step above. And then, you know, she would help me get dressed and help me put on a transfer belt and get downstairs. And I think our friend was already downstairs. I got the coffee pot going so you could smell the fucking coffee in my own goddamn house. And I had, and not drinking out of a Tim's cup, you know, after going to get it in the HSC cafeteria, just my own home, sitting in my own chair. And it was a sigh of fucking relief. I was just so glad to be drinking my own coffee made in my house out of a great new mug that the boys from the WPA, our union, got me in. Not to be hooked up to fucking wires and not to have people checking in on me, and not the noise of a ward, although the rehab ward was, it was the best ward that I was in. I think because I had sort of the best numbers of great, lovely, beautiful people. The nurses were just so good to me, and the physio staff, you know, and everyone was just, where they're focused on getting you back home. And even though the doctor was a fucking dick, the majority of the people involved in my transition back home, don't worry, I'm not transitioning, but in getting me back home, was just, they were so focused and they were happy for me. And that was, I think, really the best part of my intimate experience with the healthcare system, you know, because it was less about the administration, the structure, and the process. The people, it was more about the people who were excited and involved in getting me ready to go home. And I was. And for the first few weeks, I didn't have any physio. It was really just, I think, 2 or 3 weeks of getting reacquainted to being back home. And which seems like a stupid or a dumb thing, because, you know, I'd lived there since 2015, and I'd spent all of that time, so in January 29th of 2024, minus 8 months, or about 207 days, not living there. But I had to get used to everything again, to the beat of the drum at home. And my wife made that transition easier. Our friend made that transition easier. My daughter, and I was so happy to see them every day, and the new routine of getting up and washing properly and getting dressed and getting downstairs, you know, all of which I needed help with, but I didn't mind because I was back at home and reestablishing and refamiliarizing myself. I think I said that a couple minutes ago, but it's a real smart sounding fancy word. You know, almost sounds like I'm a sociology expert or some damn thing. But it were all just things that were such positive mental factors. And even though, you know, I played a small part in the process, it was just great. And so now setting up the routine, playing games on my phone and then having a bite to eat, eating my own fucking food. God damn it. Food that somebody else made for me at first for the quite a while because I would get gassed, tired, coming down the stairs and sitting in a chair. And I would be done for a couple of hours. That tired me out, but it was okay because I was home. I can't say that enough. But having food that was made, fresh and that was warm and that wasn't shit and that wasn't cold and it was healthy and it was mostly protein-based stuff, not fucking starches. And it was just, oh God, it was so good. And then, just I was used to the first couple of weeks of a lot of screen time, my phone or my iPad. And I don't know how long it took me to realize that, I needed to fill my days. I needed a hobby. I needed something productive and constructive because that's, you can't just be happy with being back and doing fuck all. You have to develop some healthy things that aren't just fucking screen time because that's no good for the old brain. Regardless of your injuries or time away or your age. And back home before the collision, I was heavily involved in household chores. I wasn't handy, still not, but I was helpful. Doing laundry, doing dishes and all that shit and mowing the lawn. But so I had to deal with not being able to do that anymore. That's hard. Having someone else do it for me. So it was like I'm back home, I'm happy, and things are good, and I'm getting used to it, and the routine, my daily routine is making me happier. But I had to accept the help, and not the help by paid staff members at an institution, but the help from other people at home. And I had to just sit back and not, I don't know if let them do it's the right word, but just be okay with them doing it. And I fucking hated not being helpful. Couldn't stand it. That was a real blow to my sense of contribution. So that took me a while to get over. And I think part of the key was really approaching my ability to recognize which light household tasks I could do, for how long in sort of one sitting or standing, and not to overdo it. And that too, not being able to do as much as everybody else, because I was still healing in a lot of ways. Yeah, not to overdo it. It's difficult because I wanted to do more, and I had to deal with feeling useless, and I found it quite challenging to not feel that way. So, that was often a discussion or a subject matter that I talked about with my wife or my daughter or the friend that was living with us. And everyone really did their best to make me feel good about it. But it was still a bitter pill for me to swallow. It was difficult, and I didn't like it. Took me, I don't know, many months, I think, to really just get over it and accept that I can't overdo things, and other people have to be the ones to do stuff at home. And it wasn't just challenging in terms of my own sense of self-worth, in terms of contributing to the household, the way it ran daily, but also my sense of, oh fuck, I had a total brain fart there. I forget where I was going with that. but I just had to accept it, and that took time. But everyone was so very good about it, and so I'm lucky for that. Also, talking about it with everyone that's close to me was important. And then the guys and the gals at work and my close personal group of friends were so good at checking up on me and checking in with me and popping by for a visit if they could, and having that support system of people that meant so much to me and people that I'd worked with that would stop by was huge. And it's just another example of when people who are first responders, cops, or whatever, when you talk about work being like a family, it ain't the fucking brass, it ain't your bosses. Though I've had certain supervisors who I considered equals and like family and friends who would visit me regularly or check in on me regularly, talk to me regularly. You know, people that are your direct supervisors. I just mean the further on up it goes, for the most part, they're further away from family than the ones that you've worked directly with and or for. So that really helped. And getting back to thinking of positive ways to fill my time, but also how do I deal with everything that's still going on in here, and everything that I've been through in terms of injuries and trauma and memories and nightmares and, you know, recurring dreams and all that stuff. And I hadn't set up going to see a counselor just yet, and I forget if it was my wife or daughter who first suggested that I write everything down, put everything, all of my thoughts, all of my experiences, kind of in a chronological order, writing out my experience. And because so much of the collision and my career and work were intertwined in so many ways, rather than just sit and play fucking games on my phone all day or watch TV, I decided to write a book. And some people know that, friends and family. I think anybody who might be watching this video for the first time, or who hasn't watched any of the other episodes, I decided to go back to the beginning, and obviously with sort of briefly introducing who I am and where I'm from in terms of my life and where I grew up and all that shit. I decided to write a book about my career. And, you know, I just want to, so I have a rough copy of a manuscript written, an unedited one. And I was very thankful to have the sound advice from two experienced guys on the job who've also written books and done podcasts and things like that. One of them being a former supervisor, and the other one being a former shift mate, Tango Yellow Zebra. If you ever watch this, you know who I'm talking about, and so will certain people. That's a funny story, which maybe I'll tell one day later. But it was a good exercise for my mental health. It was a good thing to occupy my time with. And it's not, I am not God's gift to policing. There are a dozen or more other officers that I've worked with or worked for who I regard as excellent cops, better than me, smarter than me, more experienced. But this, when I think about books on policing, you know, it's usually books on leadership, and quite often those books are from pencil fucking pushers who've been nothing but administrative people who've climbed the ladder. They're or, you know, unsolved murders or books specific to one subject, such as organized crime or specialty unit tactics like SWAT team stuff. I hadn't really seen or ever heard of a book um, from the perspective of a mostly active in uniform street cop, somebody with a diversity of experience and other units, but someone who's spent a bulk of their time on the fucking street, being proactive and whoops, the spit there, and responding to calls for service, and that in a nutshell is essentially what my career was. But of course, I also wanted to incorporate from that perspective, because things have changed from when I started in '98 till now. Someone who's been through not just multiple critical incidents, traumatic experiences while in uniform patrol or in specialty units, but someone who's been through the experience of a cop becoming a victim, how that affects them. And of course, I also talk because it's important. It's important for other cops to understand. And I also speak a lot about mental health, which at the beginning of my career isn't and wasn't something that was often talked about, and not something that I thought about a lot. But I wanted something to be contemporary and relatable and Canadian. Not the elbows up retard kind of Canadian, but real Canadian policing experience that other people could read, because a lot of my healing wasn't just because of the accident. It was because of all of the shit over the course of a 25-year career, how that sort of all came to a head and how that all came to light as a result of my time in the hospital, the collision itself, and everything that I relived, and still some things reliving. A lot of very particular experiences that I think a lot of other young guys and gals, or the senior ones, could really relate to. And I wanted it to be something that would help family members and friends of frontline first responders really get a grasp and understand why we are who we are and why we do the things we do. Again, not that I'm a know-all, tell-all, my way or the highway kind of guy, but I think the people that really know me will see, if this book ever comes to fruition, will see that this is a real relatable experience, and that family members and friends of guys and gals on the job, that this will be a good thing for them to help them get through their time as a police family. So I could keep going, but I think I've rambled on long enough. I just hope that people who have been watching my story from the beginning, or people who are just getting onto my YouTube channel now, I hope that they really enjoy it. If you ever have any questions, please, by all means, feel free to shoot me a message over social media. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook, and my profiles are public, or my YouTube channel. Excuse me. Let this video be another reminder that there's nothing more important than you taking care of your mental health, your physical well-being, being there for your family and for your friends. And if you ever experience anything from officer involved shooting or some kind of other difficult, critical incident, like any really horrible calls with children or suicides or things like that that are particularly difficult, don't bottle it up. Talk to someone that you can relate to, or that you feel comfortable with, someone who's experienced. And if you don't know who that is, well, then reach out to a behavioral health unit or a peer support group. Or if worse comes to worse, call 988. Love you guys. Take good care of yourselves. You matter. So yeah, that's about it. Take care. See you next time.